welcome to my short tutorial for my Padme picnic dress corset. This is a remake after having a lucky find of my fabric on eBay. I'm using the same pattern as last time. This new look, 6480. Now, while I was hunting for some fabric for my bell dress, I came across this very lucky find. It's like a gold crushed effect fabric, and it changes contrast in slightly different shade of gold in different lights. So when it's inside, it's like a beigey gold, and when you go outside, it turns like a really nice goldy gold, which is more or less like the same as hers does. It was very hard when I was first doing the corset trying to find a colour match, because in all the photos and studio shots and inside shots and outside shots it showed it in different tones of gold, and I didn't have any particular luck finding anything at that time that looked crushed. But now I have, and it's called, well, the label on it says gold 100% pure crushed silk fabric, very finest. So there we go.
This is what I should be using to trace down the pattern onto my fabric. It's called trace down paper. I'll just show you what it looks like. Okay, this is the trace down paper, and it's red, and you'll be using this to trace down your pattern. Right, I've cut all the pattern pieces into sections. Just move this out of the way, and I'm going to be starting about 3 centimeters from the top of the fabric, and I'll put my first piece onto the top and check that it's between your seam lines. That's about where it should be. And then what you're going to do is use a sharp pencil and actually trace the sections that you're going to be embroidering. For this particular sections, I'm just going to be doing the petals for now, so I should just trace down the petals and the small piece at the top. These pieces on the end here, they're a little bit too close to the seam. They need to be a little bit further over this way, so when I come to trace these down, I should just move them over slightly so that they actually sit in the second panel of the corset. Okay, I've gone through the trace down paper now, and you can just about see the outlines of the petals where I've traced. This now will go into my embroidery hoop, and I can start sewing. Okay, for the orange colour, goldy orange, we're going to use anchor thread 314, and this comes in 6 strands, and what you have to do is separate them out, so you're only using 2 strands at a time. Don't cut your lengths very long, otherwise you're going to end up getting in knots and you have to redo your work. So I'll just show you a few stitches on how to do satin stitch. As I said, don't make your thread very long, otherwise you just make trouble for yourself. Get a tapestry needle. This is one that has a larger hole than a normal needle to get the thread through. And you might find it a little bit difficult to see the outline here of the first petal that I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is just doing short sections at a time, so probably about ½ centimetre. So go forward with your needle, and then I'm going to go into the previous stitches but go a little bit further back because I want to merge them together. I don't want to have solid lines, so just carefully pull it through, don't pull it too tight. Keep your stitches close together and then just merge your stitch with the one previous, like that. Keep your stitches close. I'm going to, because this goes around in a curve slightly, I want this also to follow a curve, so I'm going to go slightly forward every time I do a stitch. So this is forcing my stitches to go around a curve. So by the time I get to the far side, my stitches have got slightly longer because I want to create that curve effect. When you get to the end of your line, put your needle in and then come back to the beginning, ready for the next line, like that. And that's how your satin stitch goes. I'm going to follow this line now to about halfway along the petal, and I'm going to stagger it slightly, and then I shall start on the next colour. I'm just going to show you how to finish off a stitch on the back. So you're running out of thread now, so you need to turn your hoop over and then just basically go through a few of the stitches on the back, like so, like that. Get my scissors and cut it off. Don't go too close to your work, and that's it. Okay, now I'm going to do the next colour, which is the end of the petals, and for this one I'm using DMC 743, and again split up the 6 strands because you're only going to be using 2 strands at a time. Now I want this to blend in with the previous colour, so what I've been doing is when you come back through the stitch, just go back a short way into the previous colour, and then the next one I do, I'm still going around a curve, so I want them to be short on this side but longer on this side. So when I do the next one, I want to blend the stitch in, so I'm going to go a little bit further back than the previous stitch into the previous colour, so that the colour is staggered, so it doesn't come out as a block. So the next one you do, bring it further towards the edge of the colour, all the time going further and further away, going slightly bigger stitches, and now this one is going to be a long stitch into the previous colour. So the idea is that you stagger your stitches so it doesn't all turn out into one block. As you can see, I've staggered the stitches here so that they blend in.
This is more or less what the finished article should look like.
Just to show you the first stage of the embroidery. The next thing to do is to take some metallic gold thread and to do very small chain stitch around every section that's just been done. Okay, the lining and the couture for the picnic dress, they're put together exactly the same as the majority of our corsets these days. You need a couture lining, and I've just used a cotton beige for the outside lining. And when you've done all of the seams and you've clipped them where they go around a curve, then you want to match up all the seams, flatten out all the seams on the inside, and these have got to match exactly. So starting at the middle, work your way out. Work on this one first and then work your way towards the end. Then come back to the middle and work your way on this one all the way to there, pulling the lining and the coutil as you go, so it's going to be completely flat. This is my bodice that I've redone for the picnic dress, and it's made exactly this from the same pattern as the lining and the coutil, and put together. So when I've on the reverse of it, I shall flatten out all the seams so they go out towards the opening at the back. Just turn it the right way around, and I'll just show you the pattern that I've done. This is using a pattern from the internet and also a pattern I'd used previously on our first picnic dress, only this time I've put in all the gold stitch work in between. So I'll just take you down this. This part here I've done a bit better because on my original one I didn't leave a gap. And this is slightly changed from the original one because you're supposed to be able to see this petal come around the back and then back down to the bottom, so I've redone that properly. And I was about 10 minutes away from actually completing the whole pattern, but as you can see from this section here, I've just run out of this particular colour just on this section and this section. So once I've done that, that would be my completed pattern, and we can start putting the corset together. Okay, I've cut the lining and the coutil to actually fit, and then I've left this much of an overlap of the front material because I want to actually bring that over and then neaten it underneath, and that is where my hooks and eyes are going to be put on. I've put all the boning in now, and one thing you have to be careful of is where you've set your sewing point. When you put all the layers together, make sure that your boning is actually less than that. I've made mine about 1.5 centimetres less, that's where the pin is, to show where my boning is. Otherwise you're going to be running your sewing machine over your boning, which is not a good idea. Okay, I've now sewn all the corset pieces together inside out, and I've now turned it out the right way. So this is the base, the bottom of the corset at the front, and for one side I would just like it to meet in the middle of the back, and this is the side I'm going to put the hooks on. So I've done a turnover like so, but on this side I want a little bit more material spare, because when the two are put together like that, the hooks are going to be underneath on this side and the eyes are going to be on this side, approximately there. So I'd like to have a little flap of extra material that will go underneath the hooks and eyes, so that if one should come undone, then all you will see underneath is some of the extra gold material. Hooks and eyes I'm going to use are size number 1, and when they go onto the seam, I want to have a little bit of a gap, so don't put the hook all the way to the end, and they have to be facing upwards. This is the finished bodice, kindly modelled for us by Betty, our friendly tailor's dummy. And what I've done now is that I've put on a couple of ribbons, which is a gold colour, about 1 centimetre wide. Attach that to the front sections. I notice on Natalie's bodice it does go back quite a fair bit at the front of the bodice. Then we go around the back here, and I've sewn on the little flower motifs and did all the gold leafing by hand. But this is how it now looks. Extremely well fitting, and when it is on Tracy it does look very nice. And this is showing the opening at the back now. That's got all the hooks and the eyes attached. Unfortunately Betty isn't quite the right size, so I'm not going to force the hooks and eyes to close, but that's what it will look like when it is closed. You can't see the hooks and the eyes.